There we go.
No.
Wow, that was so weird. Sorry, guys. Sorry for the delay coming on there. Wow. Welcome to the show, guys. Welcome to the I Want to Believe show. I'm myself, Peter Wren, and I'm with the lovely Lynda. Unfortunately, Cathy could not be with us this week due to some unforeseen circumstances. Sorry to cut straight to the show. We did play the intro, but for some reason, StreamYard wasn't cooperating, so we've come straight to it. So, how's your week been, Lynda?
It has been very busy and crazy. Yeah, but
Busy?
I survived, so that's always good, right? I survived unscathed.
That's it. How's a question for you? So, how is your investigations this time of year? Do you normally find that they kind of start getting a bit more populated, or do you find them declining this time of year?
We this year have been going nuts. Honestly, we've gotten so many of them. As a matter of fact, we just went on one last night, and we have a request for another one before Christmas, but you know, it's Christmas, so everybody's so busy. Yeah. My team is so busy. It's hard to get everyone together, and you know, you don't really want to leave anybody out. So, but this year has been crazy busy, and I think it's because you know, people are now coming out of the woodwork, Pete.
Coming out of the closet, per se.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
Yeah, it's.
How about you? Like, are you crazy too?
Oh yeah, it's like what started off because, well, I told you the story. Like, I went the other way from Vancouver Paranormal Society, and wanted to concentrate more on, you know, like other things like public buildings and stuff like that, and kind of maybe drift away from residential. But it's kind of gone full circle now because there's a lot of we have a lot of residential cases that have come forward, and it's a lot of them now that there's a lot coming up in the new year as well, and I'm kind of hesitant at the moment to accept them. I just want to, you know, I don't want to get to where I was before, where I'm like going out every weekend. I've got to investigate, and you know, and I just want. I want to tone it down to what I agreed upon myself before, where it's just 2 investigations a week and stuff like that. But we'll see anyway. But yeah, we're busy. A lot going on, and there's a lot of projects like we mentioned last week as well, with some fundraising events and stuff like that. So it's exciting times, but you know, give or take, I guess, in respect to that, and just be mindful about my own personal abilities about trying to please everyone at the same time as well.
Oh boy, yeah, I totally hear that one.
So, anyhow, this week this week's guest is a very good friend of mine. I went down to Tombstone, Arizona with her. I originally met her through TAPS when I was a director of TAPS. I actually recruited her when I was an international liaison as well. I recruited her as a part of TAPS. Kind of befriended her after that. I'm going to bring her on now. Her name is Maegun. And Maegun, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Hey, I'm Maegun. I'm founder of Panhandle Paranormal Investigations. Good to see you again, Peter. Missed you.
Good to see you.
Thank you for having me tonight.
Whereabouts do you reside?
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing you. Do what?
Whereabouts are you?
We're in the Panhandle of Florida, the Panama City area.
Oh, okay.
World's most beautiful beaches.
Apparently so. So, what got you into the paranormal? Tell us all about that.
Well, I was pretty much brought up in it. My parents, my mom and my dad, they were always believers in it. They've had me in it from the time I can remember walking. My dad is still on my team. My mom passed away several years ago. My daughter is on my team. My sister helps out. So we kind of make it a family affair.
I love that it's all in the family. That's pretty incredible. I mean, the fact that you grew up with all of this surrounding you, I mean, that has to be pretty intense. I mean, most people don't have that experience. They kind of fall into it because they've had paranormal experiences. But I mean, did you have experiences, or were you just in the paranormal because of the family thing?
It was never really a situation where I didn't believe in the paranormal. I've always believed in it. It was never questioned. As far as what the paranormal is, that's what got me investigating. What is it that we're seeing? What is it that we're hearing? Yeah, that's still the great debate. Nobody really knows for sure, I guess. But, every investigation we do leads to as many questions as it gets answered.
What kind of investigations do you do down there, per se?
We do a pretty good mix of residential and business. We focus more on the residential. People that call us, that's one reason why I took the team public, was I had several people that knew I did this kind of thing, and they were always referring people to me for help, saying they had crazy things going on. And that's kind of how the team got developed.
That's fantastic. Would you say that you're very, very busy all the time, or are there specific times of the year that you're busier than others?
There's definitely busier times, from right around the beginning of October, the Halloween season, of course. Everybody pays more attention to it. I'd say between then and December are usually our busiest times. But for the most part, because we all have families, we all have lives, we all have other things going on, work, all that fun stuff, we try to find a pretty good balance. We keep our cases to a minimum, and our families always come first.
That's good. That's good.
Thank
So sorry, I lost my train of thought. Something just popped up on the screen here. Sorry, I've been computer problems and just trying to deal with them while we're going through the interview. But so what kind of do you ever deal with like kind of negative cases or anything like that? Have you ever dealt with those kind of things before?
Yeah, we have several times. Again, we don't know for sure what it is that we deal with sometimes. Sometimes we know enough to know that it's out of our league. We need to refer to other people for help. Sometimes it's a situation where our curiosity gets the better of us. So we kind of dive into it a little bit more than we should sometimes, I guess.
So do you have any stories of any cases that kind of stick out that you want to share with us?
Oh, goodness. The pressure.
Sorry, I promise nothing too taxing.
Well, I can tell you the most recent case we've done is at a local hospital here. It's an old abandoned hospital, and the caretaker has been nice enough to let us come in and run some experiments and investigate. So this is one of those unique situations where we got to come in and do several investigations with different people and kind of mix things up where, as investigators, normally we don't get to go to the same location over and over again.
Right.
This particular case, we just happened to drop in there to see if we could investigate. And he's like, yeah, come on in. Invited us in, and we wound up getting some pretty incredible footage that we were not expecting. We've been back many times, and each time we've either gotten a voice, gotten some weird occurrences happen, enough to where it kept us going back many times.
Was that the one Scott was talking about where he set up those motion sensors and they were going off in sequence?
Yes.
Yeah, I spoke to Scott. Scott's is he is he co-founder of the group, or is he just an investigator of the group?
And he's pretty much my right-hand guy. He's got as much invested in it with me as I do. He makes all of our equipment. He teaches me the logistics behind everything. I am not a logistics person. I show up and find the information, I put everything together, kind of coordinate everything, the ringleader, if you will. But Scott is the technical person. He's the one that's our gadget guru. My dad is more of the extreme investigative type. He hears the sound and he's going to be the one that slips off when nobody's seeing him and goes and tracks it down by himself. He's not scared of anything. And then, myself and my daughter, we're the practical ones looking for information on why this even happened to begin with. What's the logical excuse? What is the non-paranormal excuse? And then you have another member, Troy, who is kind of a pretty even mix of all of us in there. Yeah, he's the inquisitive and gadget prone like Scott is, but he's also quick to jump in there and say, let's not look at the paranormal side, let's look at the normal. And then, you've got Oki, who's on our team, who is, for lack of a better term, more like a demonologist for us. He's very well versed in all different religions. He's got more knowledge. He's probably forgotten more than I'll ever learn in my lifetime. So we defer to him on a lot of questionable situations we get into.
It sounds like you've got a pretty good group. I mean, sorry, Pete, it sounds so well-rounded. I mean, I love the fact that you've got people that have strengths in different areas, because that's really what makes a powerful team. But you yourself too, you're in the medical field, right? I think I read that.
Yeah, I'm in the medical field. Not long-term. I've only been in the medical field maybe about 8-10 years now. Ironically enough, my daughter got in it before I did.
Really?
So, she's in the medical field as well. She's been on Pete's show before with the haunted hospitals and different encounters she's had as an EMT. Being in the medical field, you tend to come across a lot of crazy things, and some things you just cannot explain.
Yeah, I kind of feel that myself. I've only been with the Health Authority in BC now for just over 2 years, and I've probably gathered more evidence from my phone of like doors trying to open and hearing footsteps and stuff like that than I've ever probably documented being an investigator for the past 20 odd so years. It's freaking incredible, like the energy you get when you walk around hospitals and stuff like that. It's just like it's intense. Like obviously with the surroundings, you'd expect that kind of, you'd expect energy anyway, because there is a lot of energy in there. But hospitals are crazy places for sure. So, but
my area specialty is with sleep disorders. So I get to watch people's brain waves as they sleep and kind of monitor things when they go on working night shift, midnights, doing that. It's 12-hour shifts. It's kind of interesting. There are times where we deal with things, a lot of what we get in the paranormal field is people talking about sleep paralysis. And, they're convinced a demon is sitting on top of them trying to kill them type thing. Interestingly enough, a lot of that can come back to sleep disorders that I'm able to physically document, and their experience that they're describing at the time is kind of neat, because we actually have them hooked up to EEG leads and can see what their brain waves are doing at that time, and able to establish what stage of sleep they're in, able to find out if it's really a medical disorder that's going on.
That's pretty fascinating. So you see things from a very unique perspective, because not many people out there are, proficient in diagnosing things, I guess, like sleep paralysis and stuff like that. Many people and you're right, they do believe, well, it's a hag sitting on me, or, it's some sort of strange creature in the middle of the night. So that's a unique perspective.
It is. I was fortunate enough to have one case where a patient actually came to me as a paranormal investigator first and requested to have his self monitored and all this. He was looking for scientific reasons as well. And that was one of my very first opportunities to actually bring it all together and watch a patient, not only from home, but work as well. And, of course, with consents and all that kind of good stuff. It's interesting. Now, me, myself, I don't diagnose anybody. I'm just the trained monkey behind the computer running the computer screens. But it's really interesting to see what the brain does in different stages of sleep, especially when it comes to people thinking they have a demon sitting on them in their sleep.
Right.
And, you know, as investigators, we get a lot of that. We get a lot of people that are convinced a demon is trying to kill them in their sleep.
We get there's a lot of people in the field over the years that on the flip side of that when someone says, "Oh, I've got demons sleeping on me," and this happens during the night, you know, I get tugged and I get scratched and stuff like that, and automatically paranormal investigators diagnose it being sleep paralysis, but we don't effectively know because we're not doctors or anything like that. So what would be, apart from obviously medical examination, what would be the characteristics of sleep paralysis?
Different things are involved in it. There could be different medical issues behind it. There could be neurological issues behind it. There could be oxygen deprivation during their sleep that's causing it. There could be REM disorders that are causing it. Several things. So that's where the doctor goes in, and actually all the data that we gather, he goes in and looks at all of that, all of our documentation, all the brain waves, all of that stuff, and puts it all together in the big picture.
Wow. I'm really curious as to whether or not you have ever experienced a true case of something paranormal that wasn't sleep paralysis.
That's hard. And, you know, that's what's interesting because, again, as investigators, we're limited on what we can actually say is going on with somebody. Yeah, and then, again, in the medical field, we're limited on what we can say is going on with them at home because it's two separate environments. I would say there's been maybe one case where I felt like there was something more paranormal than neurological going on, but I never got to follow that patient. I never saw that patient in our lab. It was just a situation where he told me he went through different tests and they said he was all clear of everything.
Wow.
We had no explanation for him other than maybe it's paranormal.
That's
So what?
interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting. So what? Coming away from that, going back to your team. So Scott, I'm very good friends with Scott. I met Scott through Maegun when we were in TAPS, and Scott is a transplant recipient just like me. And when we were in Tombstone, we kind of bonded together. You know, we were talking about medication and stuff like that. But Scott is one of the only few people I've ever met in the field that actually thinks outside the box when it comes to, you know, with gadgets and stuff like that. And it's the first time I've took a stand back from someone where he was explaining to me, it's like, wow, he's complete asset for their team for sure. Great person to have, kind of thing. So what's your plan for the future with the team? Is it just to ride it out as you're doing now? Do you want to go like traveling with? Do you want to go like to other destinations now? What's your plan for the future over the next few years?
Well, the past 3 years have been pretty difficult in this area, not only with the obvious with COVID going on in the past couple of years, that's really limited things. Prior to that, we had a Category 5 hurricane hit us in this area, and we're still recovering 3 years later. So as a team, we stepped back from all the traveling. We used to go to different places. Peter, you and I went to Tombstone. That was awesome.
That's fantastic.
You know, we've been to Waverly Hills, places like that, Sloss Furnace. We're looking to get back into doing some of that stuff, but our main goal is, especially in the tri-state area, Florida, Georgia, Alabama. A couple of my team members actually live in Louisiana and head up some cases over there for us as well. So this whole lower southern region, we try to branch out and help people. So we're looking in this coming year to try to get back into going to cases remotely.
Yeah, it's that's the thing at the moment. It's the same in Canada at the moment as well with what was with COVID. And as soon as you're thinking you're taking 2 steps forward, you're taking 20 steps back, and you're you're frightened to even make plans about even, I don't know, leaving the province in case something happens. So that's why everyone's kind of, hiding in their shell at the moment. But I have a question that we were discussing this the other day with a friend of mine back in the UK with the hurricanes and you, like in Florida, it's always televised with hurricanes and floods and this and that going on, and you had the fires there as well, didn't you? And it was like over the last 5 years, Florida's been hit really bad with tragedies and stuff like that. Has there been an increase in paranormal activity? Have you noted with all of these things?
Honestly, it's been more of a decrease than an increase, which has really surprised me given the level of devastation that this area has had. One of the theories behind the paranormal is, when you have constant remodeling or things like that, big changes in the area, that it would stir up activity. Around here, we've noticed a decrease in it. And maybe it's because we're all so consumed with everything that's been going on. People just aren't noticing as much, or they're just overwhelmed with everything else going on. But as far as investigations go, it's definitely been a decrease for us.
Yeah, that's surprising. I would have thought, like Pete, maybe there would be an increase.
Yeah, we had a hurricane on Vancouver Island. It was about 10 years ago, and that was when I first took over VPS, and we were probably on two investigations a month, and almost as soon as that hurricane happened, we were getting inundated with cases coming through, like residential cases, and we quantified at that time that 90% of the cases there was a logical explanation behind it, and then once that we got that spike of inquiries, it went down to about 75%. Like we were finding, random EVPs and stuff like that. But we were finding a lot of credible evidence on cases for probably about 2 years after that. And so I think that there is something to it. But I guess with what's happened in Florida and, with the recent with COVID and stuff like that, everyone's probably too shit scared to even leave their house, well, let alone pick up the phone and call paranormal investigators out and stuff like that. But
yeah, we've gotten the random sporadic calls, and we have went out on a few residential cases. But again, the way this area has been hit, and again, not just from COVID. COVID came at a terrible time for this area because we were just a year in recovery from Hurricane Michael. And I'm telling you, this area still looks like complete devastation in some areas. Yeah. It's just unbelievable.
That's so sad, honestly. I had a question about, because you were talking about equipment, and I know, Pete, you were talking about how someone, Scott, on the team is really an outside of the box thinker. What is your sort of favorite piece of equipment that lately you have kind of gone, yay, like I'm excited about this? I'm really curious.
That's a tricky question. My favorite piece of equipment is the least technical out of all of them. I like the dowsing rods. I'm partial to those. I have a neighbor, ironically enough, who's in the plumbing business, who saw me with dowsing rods one day and was like, "What are you doing with those?" Like, "Oh, don't worry about it. It's okay." He's like, "Well, are you trying to find water lines?" And I said, "Yeah, that's what I'm doing."
Walking around the garden with 2 pieces of copper.
So that's my favorite piece of equipment. Everything else, and honestly, nothing we use in the paranormal, in my opinion, is there to detect ghosts per se. We use it to eliminate environmental factors. Now, if something paranormal can manipulate that device, and this is where Scott's knowledge of the equipment comes in, because he knows down to the little nano part how everything works. He built it. He knows what it'll respond to and what the perimeters are. So if it functions outside of those perimeters, then we get really excited. So he pretty much designs the equipment to not go off, to not respond. So when it does respond to something, it gets our attention. We get pretty excited by it.
So with the dowsing rods, maybe sound a really bizarre question, but what exactly what are you using them for in relation to when you're investigating? Are you trying to detect energy, or are you trying to find natural energy? Mechanical energy.
In the same way that EMF detectors work, you know how you can track down the bad wiring and walls and stuff. Dowsing rods are very similar to that.
Yeah.
It helps me focus what is in the room. It helps me focus what I'm feeling. You know, is it really environmental? Is it spiritual, supernatural? You know, where is the energy that's pulling in there? Where is it coming from? Where's the concentration of it? So they just kind of help give me a direction to look in.
That's kind of neat. I like that you said the dowsing rods were your favorite, because as an old-timey paranormal investigator myself, I tend to go back to the tried and true, whereas I know a lot of my friends in the field who are really young, they like to experiment with all kinds of different pieces of equipment. And I agree with you. I think it can be fascinating for sure. But again, you know, we don't know what this is all about. I mean, I've often said, unless a dead person taps me on the shoulder and goes, hey, let me tell you about the nature of reality, we're not really going to know what any of this is all about.
Exactly. And one thing that our team kind of prides itself on, you know, people contact us, oh, well, you're the experts in this. No, we're not.
No.
We're just researchers. That's all we are. We try to find the truth behind what's going on. And honestly, we're not dead, so we are not experts in anything. And like you said, unless something is tapping me on the shoulder saying, hey, I'm right here and I can document that, everything else is just open to interpretation.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's pretty much with any piece of equipment, even if it's a camera, like a basic camera, all the way down to, as much as I hate those devices, the SLS cameras and stuff like that. Like every piece of evidence we have can potentially have a logical explanation behind it, and it's just, you know, it's down for our own due diligence to understand the equipment we use in the field. So, for example, if I had a camera and I took a picture of something that I thought was interesting, I should be aware of the parameters that could naturally cause that image to appear in there. And unfortunately, now what we have people in the field that, you know, they wave these bits of plastic around with the flashing lights and stuff like that. Oh my God, I got a ghost! And it's like, well, you don't even understand what you've got in your hand, and that's the basics of what we do. We investigate to find, and we're supposed to rule out, you know, logical and natural reasons behind things as well at the same time. But with you guys, with Scott, it's like he knows every parameter of the equipment they use, so it's a bonus as such. So no, it's good. It's definitely a cut above most teams, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, all the gadgets are fun and they're interesting. The science behind it, we all like it. And honestly, when you're on a 6 to 8 hour investigation and it's 2:00 in the morning, the gadgets keep you awake. They are really good, especially with all the noisemakers that Scott makes that drive us crazy. All the bells and whistles, yes, they do keep us awake. But at the same time, you know, it's really interesting to see how the team works with each other. My team has been together for 10 years. Well, Lord, more than that. What year is this? 21? I took the team public back in 2008. And pretty much everybody on my team has been with me since then, or 2010. So we have all become a family. And the way we interact on cases, a lot of times we don't even speak to each other. We can do simple hand gestures, or, you know, look up behind the flashlight and nod over, and we're like, yep, know what you mean. I'm over there. I've got this. it's really cool because not only is my physical family on my team, but my team itself has become family. And we pride ourselves on that, and we trust each other completely. And that's one thing in this field that you have to be able to trust when
Yeah.
somebody says, yes, something touched me. I don't want to sit there and go, but did it really? You know, if Oki or Troy were to come up to me and say, yeah, something just touched my arm, me and Scott's going to be right there with the recorder and the camera, and Mackenzie's going to be walking all around them, and my dad's going to be going over here seeing if anything came up from this side. So it's really neat how when something like that happens, we just all instinctively take on a role that none of us planned for. We just kind of were drawn to it.
It's the fundamental basics of any paranormal team. If you don't have trust, you might, like everyone's, you know, when you put posts out saying, well, what would you look for an investigator? They go through equipment and you know, they must have a car, and you know what I've learned over the years, if you don't have trust, you might as well just not bother at all, because again, like with your example being, if one of my members of my team turned around and said, oh, I feel like I've been touched, I want to trust that. And I've never, only till recently, I've never really had that with a team, you know, over the last 10 years, but I have over the last couple of years where I have that element of trust, where someone like Jason turns around and said, you know what, I've just been touched. I will believe that. I've never, and straight out. But before, it's always been that, yeah, I don't believe it, because then you start pulling things out. You're like, okay, if I just got touched by something I couldn't see, I wouldn't just turn around and say, hey, Pete, I've just been touched, and just sit there just all quiet and stuff like that. And you start kind of pulling things apart that way. But yeah, no, it's good. It's good. It's good to have. It's good to have that element for sure.
Yeah. And
you
yeah,
guys
we
together
have
a
fun
long
in what
time.
we do. And again, 6-8 hours into it, 3 a.m., you all get goofy. We start
Yeah.
torturing each other. But above all, we've never been on a case where we didn't treat the location, the homeowner, or the business owner and each other with complete respect. You know, we may get goofy and have fun behind the scenes, but when we're actually running the investigation, I'm very proud of who we are.
That's so important. I swear, I love that. And I wanted to ask too, you said that this particular team that you have founded, that was in 2008, I think you said, right?
Yep.
Now, prior to that, how did this look? Was it different? Was it another team? Were you basically on your own working with your family? Or how did that look prior to 2008?
Prior to that, it was pretty much just me. And then if I had a situation where I needed advice and stuff, I would call my parents and say, hey, you know, I kind of got this going on. What's your insight on this? So for the most part, it's always just kind of been on my own. It
Wow.
wasn't until that I had several people reaching out to me, needing help. And honestly, you know, the TV shows, Ghost Hunters, things like that, that really brought it into the limelight is what prompted me to go ahead and take and create a team and make it public, because I was getting people that were asking for help, and there were things that I don't know. I was at a loss, and I needed other people to help me figure things out. And that's kind of how we got created. So
That's
thanks to
amazing.
TV, and I hate to say it, but
Yeah.
thanks to that, it gave us an opportunity to really help a lot of people. And that's why we do this, not only for our own inquisitive, want to know what's going on. We really like helping people.
Definitely has pros and cons, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Is that what you would say is your favorite part of all of this craziness, is that rewarding feeling that you get when you're able to go in, help someone try and figure out what's happening and move on? Would you say that that's probably the most enjoyable part of what you do?
Yes, it is. We had a case, I guess about a year ago, a residential case not too far from here in one of the little out towns from here. And, you know, the guy was worried sick. Something bad was going on in his home. He's got kind of a tragic history behind him, home life kind of tragic type thing. And he's one of these situations where, I guess, inner demons, if that makes sense, his own doing type stuff. But it had gotten so bad in his mind that he was convinced he was being attacked. Now, we were able to document some weird stuff in there. There was definitely some paranormal stuff going on. What is it? We don't know. But it wasn't anything that was sinister or anything like that. But it is a situation where we believed he was bringing it in because of his level of anxiety and hysteria that he was creating with it. And then he began interacting with it and began to almost create something. And it just progressed from there. And it was really one of these situations, and we all get these cases where you look at the person and go, they make these nice white jackets that you can give yourself a hug with. We all have those types of clients. But when you look past that and see what's going on, and he calls you up a week later and says, everything that you told me, everything that you had me put in perspective and look at it realistically made a difference. And he was literally in tears when he said, thank you. I can sleep in my house now. We're not Ghostbusters. We're not exorcists or anything like that. We didn't dispel anything. All we did was tell him, first of all, stop what you're doing. Stop inviting things in. Stop entertaining whatever it is that you think is in here and take possession of your home. And, everybody has a different faith system. Everybody has different beliefs on the team. Everybody is respectful of each other's core belief. But anytime we go to a homeowner, we tell them, whatever your core belief is, get into it. Stand your ground on it. And in his case, it was Christianity. So, we put it to him in a biblical sense of, if you invite God in your house, you shouldn't be entertaining anything else. And it just kind of was like a light bulb for him. And he had called us up and said for the first time in a long time, he was able to sleep in his house and felt at peace. So that's why we do this.
Yeah, it's the majority of cases that we come across is the same as well. It's like they say, and all the investigators say, it's mind over matter. It's purely that the only way that person can deal with what's going on in that, the house or wherever it is through them themselves. And it's all about, coaching them and bringing them through that threshold. And then 99% of the time, once you've shown them those goalposts, it's, their life goes back to normal. And it's always, when people contact us, it's like, oh, can you get rid of ghosts and stuff like that? No, we can't. Because essentially it's not because, we haven't got a proton pack or anything like that. It's the fact that we don't know whether that person's actually capable enough to get rid of it or not. So that's where the line is in the sand. And it's not because, I'm a medium and I'm going to tell you, if you give me $700, that I'm going to throw Casper the Friendly Ghost out the front door. But it's not that. It's in essence, it's the fact that you have to do it yourself. And that's primarily what a lot of the cases we deal with. It's kind of the similar principles of that. But
exactly, that's what we spend most of our time doing, is educating people on take care of yourself, take care of your home. We can't get rid of anything for you, but we can give you the tools you need to keep it from happening. Yeah.
Is there would you say that a lot of the cases you deal with, does religion come a lot into it a lot of the times in Florida and around that area?
In this area, yes, because we're pretty much in the Bible Belt here. So yes, religion does play a big factor in what we do. We do a lot of cleanup work, if you will. People, teenagers, young adults that watch way too much TV, dabble with things they have no business messing with because they have no clue what they're doing. And they call us in. We had a case here I'd say maybe 5 years ago, in one of the outlying areas from here over in Holt. And the person claimed to be a high priest. Like, okay, well, why are you calling us? And, he's claiming of paranormal activity in his home, and that, they were afraid they had summoned something and can't get rid of it. Like, well, I can't get rid of it either, but, we'll come document, see what's going on. And we get there. The guy had a roommate who claimed to be a Jewish exorcist, which was really kind of funny.
That's completely random.
Exactly, very. So we had a little fun with that. The homeowner, the guy, he claimed to be a high priest in a coven, and his girlfriend or wife, not sure what it was into worshiping all these other deities, and she had this weird altar thing going on that had different deities. She had Pan, and then she had a couple of Egyptian gods over there, and then she had just this weird modge podge of things going on. And we're like, what do you want us to do? You're obviously playing with things that are out of our league, because we don't do that kind of stuff. No, we don't do that. And they're like, when it came down to it, they were basically wanting us to document proof that they had summoned something.
Oh my God.
Like, well, I don't know if you have or not, but this is one of those situations where it was more bizarre than paranormal because of just the mix itself. And then they're like, well, can you bless the house? Like, wait a minute. Pick a religion here. Just pick one. This might be part of the problem.
Spin the wheel, Chuck.
I know.
Exactly. It was so funny, because I don't know how y'all are there, but in a lot of the areas we go to, let's just say some of the environments are less than clean. And I don't mean spiritually. I mean physically. This is one of those cases. And this is one I didn't want my equipment sitting around in. Oh. And you could actually hear and see things moving around that have legs.
Oh.
So when we leave that location, we have to stop by the store, and it's storming. I mean, it is storming. And on this particular case, before we go anywhere else, we have to get gas. So I go in, or one of the guys go in. I think it was either Scott or somebody else went in and bought a can of Raid.
Oh my God.
We raid the entire vehicle, inside and out, tires, everything, as we're sitting here at the gas pump, who, by the way, the guy pumping gas is smoking. That's how our night went. That's how bad this case was. And then we're sitting over on the side of the building. We were waiting on somebody. And the storm, and we're looking over at these two cars sitting over to the side. Well, there was a drug deal going on right there. And here we are in my Tahoe with dark tinted windows. So what does Scott do? He cracks the window with a camera with a red flashing light pointed to him. And I'm like, yeah, this is it. This is how we're going to die this weekend. And I kid you not 2-3 minutes later, lightning strikes right behind the store. And there is this huge explosion sound. And we're all like, you know what? It's time to go home. So we're going down the road with all this Raid fumes in the vehicle, looking like Cheech and Chong going down the highway. So even if it's not paranormal, most of our cases are pretty memorable.
When you first started off telling us this story, I thought it was like some kind of joke. Because it's like in the UK we have jokes like there's an Englishman, Irishman, and a Scotsman. But then you said that there's a Jewish exorcist, there's a Catholic exorcist, and there's a woman there with funny ornaments. I'm like, where are you going with this joke? I'm waiting for the punchline. Oh
my God.
This is one of those cases you just can't make up.
No.
Oh, I want to go with you next time.
I'm telling you, our cases, even if nothing paranormal happens, the journey and the whole event around it is hilarious. We go sometimes just for that, just for the memories made.
It's funny that you see on social media. There's a lot of stigma about things going on in Florida as well, because like when you see like funny videos, there's comments of it must be Florida and stuff like that. It's just like, no, that actually looks like where I was born in London half the time. But you get, I guess you're in Florida. You get labelled kind of like a Newfie or something like that, or someone from Newfoundland, that kind of thing. But it's funny.
Well, I'm telling you, I don't think crazy is limited to one area. I think it's everywhere.
We got a question. Okay, we're going to ask you about IHOP.
Oh God. Let's see who asked that one. I don't know that name. About IHOP is like as in Waffle Houses or IHOP in general.
I don't know. That's where it's just come from, and I don't know who the author is. Ask her about IHOP.
I'm not sure about IHOP. I'm not sure what they're referring to. If they're talking about like Waffle Houses, most of our cases, of course, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, you're going to wind up at a waffle shop because we're starving. Yeah. And let me tell you, the adventures there, Lord have mercy. We were sitting at a waffle shop here in town one time. It was about 3 o'clock in the morning. We're starving. It's the only place open. And most of my team is with me at the time. And we're sitting here, and this guy evidently calls in a threat to one of the waitresses that works there and is talking about blowing up the place. And we're just sitting here waiting on our breakfast. Next thing we know, every cop in the county, unmarked, ununiformed, uniformed, K-9 units start swarming this waffle shop. And we're all in our PPI uniforms sitting here. And we're just looking, going, check, please. We just want to go. So if that's the reference for the IHOP, if they're referring to that as the same thing, I don't know. But yeah, midnight food is just as entertaining as cases.
I think James made a comment.
It's James.
Yeah, he's on my team. That's our Louisiana chapter. That's what he's talking about.
Fantastic. So is the majority of your cases then like during the night? Do you choose to do it during the night, or is it just a schedule thing?
We base it on what the homeowners tell us. If it's a residential case and they're saying, well, you know, the activity usually happens in the middle of the night, that's when we'll center around the investigation. In my experience, it doesn't matter day or night. If there's paranormal activity there, it's there regardless.
Yeah.
Nighttime is just a little easier because everything environmentally has calmed down. You don't have a lot of outside noises from traffic and businesses and kids and people and all that stuff. So it eliminates some of the contamination issues. That's why we do them at night.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time I've gone past like 1 o'clock in the morning on an investigation. Freaking kill me now. I'm like,
you know, we're the same way. We're looking at our clocks around midnight, 1 a.m. going, dude, I got to get to bed.
It's like we get to like 10 o'clock and my eyes are just dropping and it's just like, no, I can't do this anymore. I can't do it anymore.
I'm so glad to know we're not the only ones anymore.
No, actually our last investigation, we actually did it at 9 o'clock in the morning. Like we started at 9 o'clock in the morning and it was great. Like I was home and it was like, yeah, I can get the rest of my day. And then well, we do it the same as you. We try and scenario it. So people say, oh, because the majority of the activity we get through, they say, oh, it's evening times and stuff like that. And of course, naturally, it's when everything's settled, people are in front of the TV. And we try and simulate like different times of the day to see whether there's a variable and perhaps it being intelligent rather than it being a kind of residual thing. And that's why we play with the times and stuff like that. But frick, go past like 1 o'clock in the morning. I wouldn't be worth anything. I'll be seeing a demon anyway, just from my own eyesight.
Yeah.
But Oh, that's
We
good.
had a case here several years back, and it was a very bizarre one in a small little town here that is just creepy all by itself. The whole town itself is just very bizarre. And this lady reached out to us needing help. It was so bad, she left her house. She grabbed her purse, her keys, and did not go back for over a year until she could get somebody to come out there. She mailed me the keys.
No.
Said she would not meet us up there. She mailed me the keys, said, would y'all go up there? So we're going to this little town where there's no cell signal, no GPS. Directions are turn left where the old mailbox used to be and follow the two-rut road that used to be a road but's probably grown over now. And just don't go too far because that's the bad neighbors. So we're sitting here going, oh God, this is how we're going to die out here in banjo country, honey. I mean, I swear we heard the theme of Deliverance playing as we're going down the road. So we get out there. This is a case that we actually could not get enough of for a while. We spent 3 solid days and nights out there. This is the first case in my life that I ever, after we did the initial walkthrough and, kind of casing the place out and seeing who all we needed to bring and what equipment, when we come back home to get our equipment and stuff, I loaded my shotgun. I took my shotgun with me. And because it is in the middle of the woods, I'm thinking bears, we have panthers here, all kind of stuff, and it's all overgrown. The weeds are head high. And again, we're talking banjo country. And, I got a couple of team members when they got pretty smiles and, they fit right in with them banjos playing in the background with Deliverance. So, yeah, we got to protect ourselves.
Yeah.
But this is the first case that had us convinced somebody was messing with us. We spent 3 days and 3 nights out there trying to figure out what was going on. People hitting the windows. I mean, to the point we thought the glass was going to break. Voices right outside the windows. Lights. All kind of crazy stuff. But nothing was ever there. That was the crazy part. Nothing was ever there.
What do you think would cause, what did you know any history about the place? What would cause that amount of energy in a remote location like that?
The land itself has, that whole town kind of has a dark history about it. It can be traced back to Creek Indians. It can be traced back to a lot of trauma, a lot of death, a lot of war, a lot of fighting over the land. And the group of Indians that wound up staying there back when Andrew Jackson was president, they finally fought the system and won enough to where he said, okay, you can stay on this land. Well, what happened was this particular group of Indians became more like nomads. They isolated themselves. They more or less put a curse on the land and everything around it to keep people out. They did not want to be bothered again. Then another group of people moved in, and I don't remember the history real well. I'm bad about that. But they wound up, I guess, intermingling and mixing and created like a different tribe, more or less. And they were not known to be good people. They were very standoffish. They did not like outsiders. And I had an uncle who was very rich in Indian history, and I had asked him about that town one time, and he said, the curses they put on that town could be just as strong today as they were 100 years ago when they did it. And that's what, either that or aliens really did come down to us that night and messing with us. All I can tell you is there was something very bizarre about that area and very creepy.
So the noises you heard outside the voices, obviously they weren't speaking English as such. It was all, you could just hear voices. Did you
we could hear voices. We never could make out what some of them were saying, except for there was one night we were there, and me and one of our investigators, Vivian, we were walking through the doorway because we had heard somebody banging on the walls and the windows coming up to the door. So we're standing there. I'm the first one through the door. She's right behind me. And I hear plain as day, a female voice saying, "It's cold." And I turn around and I look at her, and she looks at me and she said, "I did not say that." I said, "You didn't just say that?" So we go back and play the audio, and you hear on audio a female voice saying, "It's cold." And then you hear this weird breathy sound. And I was like, let's get everybody together. I'm not coming out here by myself. We all got to go together. If one goes, we all go.
Yeah. Just driving off, you're waving at everyone while you're driving away. Bye. It's been fun.
Yep. But that was a crazy night. And, it was 3 of us were sleeping in the living room, kind of not really sleeping, but kind of keeping watch and dozing off. And, you had mentioned something about you really do see things when you get tired. Yeah. Me and Scott were sitting there going over some of the evidence while Troy was sleeping, because we were kind of taking shifts. And we both swore up and down when we're going through some of these pictures, we saw something in these pictures. We even marked the picture. Next day, when we get some rest, go back and look at the picture, there's nothing in it. Nothing at all. Yeah, how did we both see the same thing and then come back and it not be there? We hadn't figured that one out yet, other than sleep deprivation can do some really bad things to you.
Yeah, we've had that before with EVPs, where we've all, and it might be, I guess, it being visual rather than, pareidolia in the ears and stuff like that, where because I do real-time EVPs, you see me, I wear the headphones and I go for a voice recording, and whenever I hear anything, I tag it, and then after the EVP session, I do a playback because I'm impatient, and I always do a playback to see whether I've captured anything, and then whenever I capture anything, I hand it off to someone, and I'll say, "What do you think you can hear?" And I don't tell them what I hear and stuff like that. And I've done it a few times where they have heard the same thing as me without even me suggesting what was on there, and they've said, "Yeah, no, that's what I thought as well." And next day, next day I put it out, put it in, and go back through it. It's like, where is that? Where is that? And then it was a guy called Russ. He's like, "Where's that EVP? Can you send me that EVP?" And it's like, "Russ, there's nothing on there." And it was the same. It was that. It was like, where did that go? And it's weird because you both see the same thing. And I guess with you and Scott, it's not the power of suggestion. You're not going, "Scott, look, it's a fucking man standing there. Look," getting all excited. It's, you're pointing things out, and he's, it's that mutual agreement about what's there and stuff like that. But it's weird, like that things like that. Like it's and things when I've had it a couple of times over the past 20 or so years where I've had evidence wiped out as well, like EVPs for the whole night. Yep. Like just totally wiped out, where I've got to the end of the night and I've pulled my SD card out and I've put my SD card in my case and I put it away, and then I go and plug it in the next day and nothing. The whole card is wiped.
Yep. We've had that happen more times than I can count.
Yeah, and it's just like, it could be the card and stuff like that. It's like, no, like SD cards don't normally wipe like that unless there's something with the card. And then you use it again, it's fine. And then a few years later, you're still using the same SD card, and it does the same shit again. It's just like, well, why doesn't that happen all the time? Why can't I use it if it's wiping things out? But I did it once where we actually backed it up at the end of the night, and this was about 10 years ago, where we backed it up at the end of the night, and it was at the time where we were sharing the evidence review, and both the person who took my evidence away that I uploaded onto his card, we both had the same thing. We opened up the files and nothing. Went to the source, nothing. And then he acknowledged that, like, when he uploaded it, there was something on there, and then when he opened it up, nothing on there. Weird, like stuff like that. And it's just like, how do you even begin to kind of put a logical explanation behind something like that? It's just. Yeah, but I guess there's people out there that are just non-believers in what we do, I guess, as well. Yeah. So,
that's just more of those questions that we can't answer.
Yeah, it is. It's one of those campfire discussions, isn't it? where you just go
Yeah.
even deeper about parallel universes and stuff like that.
It's true. It's true.
Anyway, okay, well, we've hit the hour mark, and so would you like to sell your group on to the audience, please? I did spell it right, didn't I?
I'm having a hard time hearing you again. I'm getting that metallic feedback again.
It's my accent. It's my accent, Megan. It's so it's your opportunity now to sell your group. Tell us who you are and how they can find you.
I'm having a hard time understanding you. I think you said tell people how they can find us.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Panhandle Paranormal Investigations.com. You can find us that way. We have a Facebook page. Look us up. We're always here.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for joining us, Megan. Thank you so much, and thank you everyone for tuning in. And don't forget to please subscribe to the I Want to Believe channel. And if you like the show, give it a like as well, just as a bit of gratitude for us. And we'll be back next week with we have next week guest is Darren Thompson, who is founder of a team in Washington. I can't remember what I'd say it is. Some team in Washington State, but anyway. It's been a long week again, Lynda. I always get to this time when my brain starts like
I hear you.
thinking out what it is and stuff like that. But I'm trying, right? At least I'm putting a smile on people's faces. Anyway, thanks guys. Tune in next week for another episode of our show. Bye.
Bye.